Back from my rebirth, I deliberately arrived late, delaying my marriage registration with Marcus. In my previous life, after Marcus learned I was pregnant, he disappeared for 20 years with Lily. Later, when I was on my deathbed, he returned. He looked at Lily's photograph and said, "If only I had registered our marriage a little later, would the outcome have been different?" When I realized I had been reborn, Marcus was standing at the entrance of the staff, waiting for me to go register our marriage together. I lied, claiming I needed to deliver something to a colleague, and sent him ahead to wait for me at the county's office. After parting ways with Marcus, I headed up the local. Lying in Aunt's rocking, watching the sea of clouds in front of the house, I basked in the sun. Aunt handed me a roasted potato and asked curiously, "Aren't you supposed to be getting your marriage certificate with engineer today? What brings you here?" I took a bite of the warm roasted potato. Smiling, I told her, "Aunt, I had a nightmare, and I felt disturbed after waking up." Aunt comforted me, saying, "It's just a dream. What matters is the life you're living. After you marry engineer, you'll have a good life ahead of you. What nightmares could you possibly fear then?" I paused for a moment, then nodded with a smile. Aunt is right. I'll just stay here for a little while and then leave. Marry? Not in this lifetime. In my previous life, Marcus and I had just registered our marriage and were stepping out of the county's office. He bumped into a young woman. Her name was Lily, and she lived in the small where we worked. On the way back, Marcus remained silent. I assumed that, as a newly married man, he was consciously avoiding unnecessary contact with other. I never imagined I'd only learn the truth when I was close to death. It turned out that with that bump, Marcus had fallen in love with Lily at first sight. He wasn't avoiding contact, he was filled with regret. Regretting he couldn't have registered our marriage just one day later. After that day, Marcus became much colder toward me. He would often gaze blankly in the direction of the small, lost in thought. I asked him why, but he evaded the question. As I asked more often, and with work getting busy, I stopped asking. I simply waited for him to come to his senses and be willing to communicate with me on his own. After the small project concluded, Marcus and I were assigned to different project teams. We were forced to live apart. I thought it was only temporary. But with every subsequent assignment, he was sent to opposite ends of the country from me. I brought it up with Marcus, but he merely replied blandly, "Follow organizational arrangements." Until one day, when I returned to report for duty, I overheard my colleague's conversation and realized that, except for the first separate assignment, every subsequent one was the result of Marcus actively requesting it from his superiors. Marcus and I had a huge fight. Afterward, he hugged me and apologized, but he never explained why. At dawn, Marcus left. I thought our marriage was over. Unexpectedly, I became pregnant. After learning of my pregnancy, Marcus's coldness vanished. He began to care for me attentively. He would clumsily try to cook for me. He would press his ear to my belly, listening for the baby kicking. He would walk with me every evening. Then one day, Marcus disappeared. I asked many people and searched for him for a long time. No one knew where he had gone. Nor could anyone tell me if he was alive or dead. I went to prenatal checkups alone, gave birth alone, took my son to the hospital alone, and raised my son alone. I handled both sets of parents' funerals alone. I thought he was dead. But when I was fading away, he suddenly appeared before me. It was then that I learned he had been with Lily for those 20 years. They had adopted a son and showered him with all their love. But, burdened by unspoken sorrows, passed away before him. Her only regret before dying was never becoming his wife. Marcus told me he was sorry, yet he resented me. I felt it made no sense. If he didn't love me, why didn't he tell me sooner? He could have simply divorced me and built a home with Lily. Instead, he abandoned his wife and child, neglecting his own parents. What right did he have to resent me? Yet my own son, Ethan, whom I raised single-handedly, told me he envied Marcus and Lily's adopted son, who grew up showered with love. He blamed me for bringing him into the world without his permission. It was then that I realized he had been in contact with his father all along, without my knowledge, keeping it a secret from me. I stayed at Aunt's house for an hour. After saying goodbye to Aunt, I went straight to the county's office. As I arrived at the county's office, I saw Marcus helping Lily to her feet. I watched Marcus stare at Lily, unable to tear his gaze away. His previously somewhat annoyed expression was replaced by one of awe. In my previous life, I had been busy helping Lily up and striking up a conversation with her. I hadn't noticed Marcus's unusual behavior. Now, looking at it from an outsider's perspective, everything was so obvious. "Marcus, I'm here. Have you been waiting long?" Seeing me appear, Marcus froze, quickly becoming flustered. "Oh, Ava, you're here." I noticed that when Lily looked at me, unlike in the previous life, her expression was complex, with a hint of jealousy in her eyes. But when I looked again, she had returned to normal, as if it had all been my imagination. I was curious. In this life, we hadn't yet registered our marriage. Marcus had met Lily earlier. How would he choose? Would he break up with me and choose Lily? Or would he continue as in the previous life, register our marriage with me but live together with Lily? "It's getting late, let's go in and register our marriage." I pretended to be anxious. Marcus's face went pale. "Oh, my foot hurts." Lily's timely cry of pain broke the momentary silence. In the previous life, Lily wasn't injured. How did she get hurt this time and at such a coincidental moment? Could she have been reborn too? I looked at Lily, scrutinizing her, but found nothing. Marcus took Lily to the clinic. The doctor said there was nothing but a wound that would have healed on its own a little later. Lily's face flushed crimson with embarrassment. Marcus, however, seemed pleased. On the way back, we passed the county's office. Marcus's face was conflicted. "Ava, they're closed for the day. How about we come back tomorrow?" I replied indifferently, "We'll see." Registering a marriage also requires choosing an auspicious day. Only, in this life, there would never be an auspicious day suitable for registering our marriage. A smile played on my lips. Marcus sighed, "All right. I'll tell Aunt when we get back." Marcus and I had arrived by bicycle. On the way back, Lily unhesitatingly hopped onto Marcus's bicycle. Marcus looked at me, a bit embarrassed, but didn't refuse her. I pretended not to notice and cycled off first. A cool breeze swept by, carrying the sound of Lily and Marcus talking. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but I could hear the joy in their voices. Aunt's deliberately suppressed laughter. How long had it been since I'd seen Marcus smile? In my previous life, it seemed that after meeting Lily, Marcus never smiled when he was with me. But now, none of that mattered to me. As I entered the villagers saw Lily sitting on Marcus's bicycle, one arm wrapped around Marcus's waist. When they looked at me, they either winked or shook their heads, coughing. I knew what they were trying to convey, but I simply smiled and returned to the staff. For the wedding, Marcus had already rented the Marital in advance. Most of our belongings had already been moved in. I passed the Marital, stopped my bike, and paused. The home had 2 bedrooms on either side, a living room in the middle, and a small courtyard. In my previous life, after returning from the county's office, I saw the red decorations adorning the house and felt utterly blissful. No one knew that the day before registering our marriage, the groom happily busied himself decorating the Marital. Yet on our wedding night, his ardor had cooled. That night, like countless lonely nights that followed, we lay silently in bed, doing nothing, both unable to fall asleep for a long time. Without waiting for Marcus to return, I pushed my bicycle back to the staff. As soon as I reached the staff, I took out my promotion from the drawer. Although it was called a transfer, what awaited me back home was a promotion and a raise. In my previous life, because I was marrying Marcus, I gave up this opportunity. 3 months later, we were assigned to different locations. After that, Marcus intentionally arranged for us to be sent to opposite ends of the country. Later, I became pregnant, and Marcus disappeared. Alone, I not only had to raise Ethan but also care for both sets of parents. I struggled at work, gradually being transferred from crucial departments to marginal ones. I never received a promotion or a raise my entire life. My elementary school-aged son, Ethan, would always look at my ordinary, busy self with a disgusted expression. He would say, "Everyone else's mom is so pretty, why can't you be like Lily? Like other people, and take care of your appearance? Lily?" The more I remembered, the more startled I became. So even then, Ethan had already been in contact with his disappeared father, yet he had kept it a secret from me for my entire life. Ridiculous, utterly ridiculous. At dinner time, Marcus didn't come to find me as he usually did. I took my lunchbox to the cafeteria alone, forgetting. In the cafeteria, I saw Marcus and Lily sitting across from each other. They were serving each other food. I don't know what Marcus said, but Lily covered her mouth and laughed. "See? Me." Marcus first froze, then quickly stood up. "Ava, you're here. Well, Lily just got home and there's no food there, so I brought her here to eat something first. I was originally planning to bring you a portion later, but I didn't expect you to come so early." Early? There weren't many people left eating in the cafeteria. And there were only a few dishes left. I couldn't help but remember my previous life. After we had registered our marriage and returned, Marcus said he would go to the cafeteria to get food. But I waited until very late for him to return. He came back empty-handed. He simply told me blandly, "The food is all gone. Just bear with it for tonight." That night, if there was any sound, it was just my stomach rumbling with hunger. So, even at this time in my previous life, Marcus had already begun taking care of Lily. I didn't say anything, just walked past him. I scraped the remaining dishes into my lunchbox and took them back to the staff. I was halfway through my meal when there was a knock at the staff door. It was Marcus and Lily. Marcus looked at me, his expression complex, and he gave a slight cough. "Ava, I want to discuss something with you." I looked at him, remaining silent. Marcus glanced at Lily, who was standing cautiously beside him. His eyes filled with tenderness, and when he spoke again, his tone was firm. "Ava, well, Lily just came back from the city. As you know, she lives alone, and her house hasn't been lived in for a long time, so it needs cleaning. You see, we haven't registered our marriage yet, and I was thinking, maybe we could lend our marital to Lily for a few days." I looked at Lily. Lily, like a startled rabbit, cowered behind Marcus. In both lives, past and present, I saw two completely different Lilies. If someone told me Lily hadn't been reborn, I wouldn't believe them. But I had no time to play along with her act. I no longer wanted this man, and whatever Lily did seemed superfluous to me. "Fine, it's your house, why? Oh, you decide." Marcus hadn't expected me to agree so readily. His prepared arguments suddenly got stuck in his throat, neither coming out nor going back in. "However, I don't like other people touching my things. I'll go collect my belongings later." Marcus paused, then hastily said, "No, no need. I'll move your things into another room." So he not only wanted Lily to move into our marital, he also wanted her to sleep in our marital bed. How ridiculous. I saw Lily also smirk, a faint smile playing on her lips. After dinner, I took my flashlight and went to the marital to pack my things. When I arrived, Marcus was busy making the bed for Lily. He was even using the new bed sheets I had carefully chosen for our wedding night. Marcus looked at me with some surprise. "Ava, why are you here? I've already put all your things in my room." "Oh," I replied, then turned to get my things from the next room. Marcus followed me. His expression was complex, his eyes holding emotions I couldn't decipher. "Ava." Just then, Lily ran out of the room. "Marcus, aren't those bed sheets for you and Ava's wedding? Is it really okay for me to sleep on them?" "It's fine, I can just sleep on my dirty clothes." Lily's voice trailed off as she spoke. I saw Marcus look at her, his eyes filled with pity. He looked at me. "Ava, look, all the bed sheets in the house are new, and this particular sheet." How could I miss the fleeting triumph in Lily's eyes? She just didn't know that I had no intention of keeping a jerk like Marcus from the moment I was reborn. I said indifferently, "Those bed sheets were bought with your money, so you decide." "Thank you, Ava and Marcus, you're too kind to me." Wow, I never thought I'd get to live in Marcus's marital and sleep in Marcus's marital bed someday. Those words sounded off, and Marcus sensed it too. But he looked at me without speaking, as if testing my limits. After speaking, Lily seemed to realize something, covered her mouth, and put on an act of having said some effing wrong. "I'm sorry, Ava, I'm so sorry. Don't misunderstand, there's really nothing between Marcus and me. I think I'll just sleep on my dirty clothes." She started to reach for the dirty clothes in her bag. Marcus quickly stopped her. I reassured Lily, "It's fine, you can sleep comfortably. It's not a big deal for me." Marcus couldn't read anything on my face and stood to the side, deep in thought. I was busy packing and had no time to pay him any mind. Lily deliberately tried to cover up her intentions, but her attempts to clarify only made things sound more suspicious. She simply wanted to provoke me, to highlight her vulnerability and perceived mistreatment in front of Marcus, making dislike me. But having lived another life, why would I care? The only thing she should be grateful for is that in my previous life, she didn't flaunt herself in front of me. In this life, she hadn't flaunted herself enough. I leaned close to Lily and whispered in her ear, "Lily, you're overthinking it. Why would I care? You're also means well. There's nothing to misunderstand. Even if he marries you, I wouldn't object. I just wonder if he will marry you." I looked at Lily, then smiled and winked at her. Hearing this, Lily's face turned ugly. She couldn't understand why I was so different from the naive and easily manipulated Ava of the previous life. But soon she realized something, and when she looked at me again, her face was smug. I finished packing my things. Carrying my bag, I prepared to leave. Marcus suddenly called out to me from behind. He stepped forward, intending to take the bag off my back. I refused him. A joke, Lily had even been reborn. In her previous life, she had been the woman for her entire life. In this life, she was here to legitimize her position. She already regarded Marcus, that piece of trash, as her private property, and I certainly didn't want to get myself into trouble. Marcus saw my evasive movement, and when he looked at me, his eyes were full of hurt. Ava, are you angry? I can explain. How strange. In my previous life, he'd rather waste my entire life than open his mouth. But in this life, he finally did. But I already knew what he was going to say. It was simply him using the pretense of care while emotionally straying. Explain? What's the point? Besides, Lily wouldn't agree anyway. Ah. Just as I thought. Hearing shriek, Marcus no longer cared about seeing me off and turned to run back into the house. I scoffed, adjusted the bag on my back, and left. In my previous life, I was married to Marcus for 21 years, and my life ended when I was 45. That was considered passing away young. When I gave birth to that ungrateful, I suffered a massive hemorrhage during childbirth. My health was ruined then. Later, my body hadn't even fully recovered, and I had to care for Ethan alone. I also had to look after Marcus's unreasonable parents, William and Margaret. And while working, I tirelessly searched everywhere for Marcus. My health declined steadily. Raising until he was 20 was already the result of my utmost efforts. Since disappeared, I hadn't had a single good night's sleep. Now, reborn, I hadn't married Marcus. I hadn't exhausted my life with endless toil. My body was healthy. I could finally sleep peacefully. Dreamless, it was the first good night's sleep I'd had in 2 lifetimes. The next day, I requested leave from my supervisor and informed him that I had agreed to the promotion back to the. My supervisor was surprised. Didn't you say you didn't want to live apart from engineer after marrying him? I shook my head. I won't be marrying him. For me, my career is the most important thing right now. My supervisor looked at me and smiled with relief. In my previous life, my supervisor had also tried to persuade me. He had said, with your abilities, you could achieve greater things. I had been foolish, letting my judgment be clouded by a jerk, and gave up such a great opportunity. I asked my supervisor to keep my departure a secret, and we agreed on the time of my departure. Leaving my supervisor's office, I headed straight for the train. Train tickets were hard to come by at this time, one had to queue for a long time. As I cycled past the Marital, through the fence, I saw Marcus and Lily squatting in the yard together, brushing their teeth. Marcus skillfully and naturally took a towel from the clothesline and personally wiped Lily's hands. Lily looked at him adoringly. It seemed that after one night, their relationship had made a significant leap. Seeing me cycle past the entrance, Marcus's face went pale, and he quickly distanced himself from Lily. I withdrew my gaze, completely ignoring Marcus's guilty conscience and Lily's hurt expression. Relying on my memory, I arrived at the train. After paying to store my bicycle, I followed the crowd into the ticket hall. People traveling long distances at this time carried large and small bags. From to bedding and large, they carried everything they could onto the train. Looking at the surging crowd, I finally decided to bring as little as possible. Especially bulky items that took up space. I would sell what I could and give away what I couldn't. After queuing for a long time, between a standing ticket and a sleeper ticket, I still chose the sleeper ticket. I suffered my entire previous life. In this life, I just wanted to be good to myself. By the time I left the train, it was already afternoon. After a lifetime, I lacked experience and forgot to bring food for the queue. I had missed lunch while buying the ticket, and by now, I was starving. I asked around and found the local that Marcus and I had visited in my previous life. Back then, he and I had a blind date here, arranged by a colleague. Marcus was handsome, fair-skinned, and the clean-cut type I liked. And like me, he was a technical professional. Moreover, both our families were in the. I thought at the time that it would be convenient for our families to visit each other in the future. And he was quite satisfied with my appearance. We decided to give it a try. During our courtship, he wasn't particularly good to me, but he wasn't bad either. He was attentive to me in every aspect of life. At work, he would also help me solve any problems I encountered. There wasn't much of that thrilling flutter of love between us. It was more about suitability. I thought I would live a peaceful and quiet life with him. I never expected him to suddenly drop a bombshell on me. Marcus proposed to me after we had been together for 2 months. He seemed happy when he decided to enter into marriage with me at that time, but in the end, childhood couldn't compete with sudden. Lily's appearance gave him that spark of romance. His affections wandered. Love knows no origin, yet runs deep and true. But he shouldn't have done what he did. He shouldn't have selfishly abandoned everything for love and squandered my life. After parking my bicycle, I entered the local. There weren't many people at this time. Therefore, I immediately spotted Marcus and Lily sitting in a corner. Lily saw me first. She stood up and waved to me enthusiastically. Ava, are you here for dinner? Marcus and I are together, so come join us. Don't be shy, it's just adding another pair of chopsticks. Truly a top-tier manipulative woman, capable of snatching someone's husband for over 20 years. In just 2 sentences, she'd placed herself in the host's position. Oh, I wouldn't want to intrude. I hope I'm not disturbing your date? I said with a smile, glancing at Marcus. Marcus was visibly flustered. He quickly stood up to get me a chair. Oh, Ava, please don't misunderstand. My relationship with Marcus isn't what you think. Marcus just thinks I'm too thin and wants to help me put on some weight. Well, she got to show off again. I ignored Marcus's actions and walked over to Lily, taking a seat beside her. Marcus rubbed his nose and sat down. Awkwardly. I was shocked to see a table laden with an extravagant. Good heavens, this meal must have cost Marcus at least half a month's salary. He was so generous with Lily. Lily served me a piece of braised. Ava, try the braised here. Marcus said their braised is the best, and insisted on getting it for me. He even said he'd pack another portion for me to take home. Here, try it. And the fish, try the fish too. I've never had such delicious fish. Marcus said he can cook too, and he'll often cook for me when we get back. Marcus could cook? In my previous life, when I was pregnant, he was always flustered and clumsy in the kitchen, constantly dropping pots or breaking bowls. In the end, I had to push him out of the kitchen and cook myself. So love could be faked. I took the braised and savored it was indeed delicious. Things from this era were truly authentic. This pork was genuinely fragrant. And this freshwater, it didn't have any of that later oily taste, it was truly fresh and tender. I slowly savored my food, completely ignoring what Lily was saying. Ah! Lily suddenly shrieked, startling me so much I almost dropped my chopsticks. I'm sorry, Ava, I was just startled by a fish bone. Where was I? Oh, right, Ava, have you ever eaten Marcus's cooking? If you haven't, you can come to the house tonight. Marcus promised to cook for me, didn't you, Marcus? Startled by a fish bone? You really startled me. Lily clearly couldn't stand seeing me act so indifferent. She deliberately feigned being scared by a fish bone to get my attention. Go on, keep showing off. Once I leave, who will you show off to then? Lily, you're truly fortunate. Marcus and I have known each other for so long, and I never knew he could cook. You two just met 2 days ago, and he's already promised to cook for you. I guess I'll get to enjoy a delicious meal tonight, thanks to you. She originally wanted to make me mad with jealousy, but unexpectedly, I didn't care at all. Lily was stunned. Marcus's face, throughout this, kept shifting from green to white. I continued eating, completely disregarding their reactions. When my tofu with scallions was served, I pushed it towards Lily and Marcus, inviting them to share. The dinner table was much quieter after that. I could finally eat my meal in peace. Leaving the local, I said goodbye to Lily and Marcus and cycled away. I was going to the post office to call Henry and Susan. In my previous life, after Marcus disappeared, I was alone, raising Ethan, caring for Marcus's parents, William and Margaret, and working. Every day I spun around like a top. For some reason, even though my family background was no worse than theirs, William and Margaret simply looked down on me. Not only did they refuse to help me with Ethan, but they also constantly found ways to torment me. The moment I showed even the slightest hint of displeasure, they would run to my workplace and cause a scene. Back then, a stable job was hard to come by, and I still had to raise Ethan. So I endured it. After and Susan heard about my situation, while looking after their other grandchildren, they supported me considerably. They thought about finding someone else to marry me off to. But after William and Margaret found out, they went to Henry and Susan and caused a huge scene, claiming that our family was trying to force them, the elderly couple, to their deaths. Not only that, whenever a man was willing to meet me for a potential match, Margaret would always take Ethan and follow us. Then she would make Ethan run up to me, crying and making a fuss. Gradually, no one was willing to meet me for a potential match anymore. I gave up any thoughts of remarrying and focused solely on raising Ethan. During this time, Henry and Susan suffered greatly because of William and Margaret. But mostly, they worried about me. Even until their dying day, I was their greatest concern. The call quickly connected. After a lifetime, hearing Henry and Susan's voice again, I cried. They heard the catch in my voice. Henry and Susan were extremely worried. They thought Marcus had bullied me. They were so angry they wanted to come and confront Marcus. I reassured them and told Henry and Susan everything that had happened recently, as well as my decision. Henry and Susan were silent for a long time on the phone. Finally, they just said that if it was a decision I had deeply considered, they would respect it. I breathed a sigh of relief. I told them about my promotion back to the. My train ticket to leave was for 3 days later. Henry and Susan said they would make lots of my favorite dishes and wait for me at home. Returning to the staff, I opened the door. I found Marcus sitting at my desk, flipping through some study. I almost forgot, he also had a key to my staff. Seeing that the drawer containing my promotion offer was locked, I breathed a sigh of relief. With my relationship with Marcus currently unclear, I didn't want any more complications before I left. Marcus saw I was back and quickly stood up to pour me some water. He had something to say, but he kept hesitating, unable to speak. I sat on the bed, slowly drinking my tea, waiting for him to speak. Finally, he couldn't hold back. He turned to face me. Ava, Lily, and I aren't what you think. I swallowed the tea in my mouth and said indifferently, what do I think? Marcus stumbled over his words. If I were still the Ava of my previous life, I would have believed him, whether he explained or not. But I had, after all, lived a lifetime, seen and experienced my own tragic existence. Even if Marcus explained 1,000 times, it would all be meaningless to me. He had told me on my deathbed in my previous life. He had fallen in love with Lily at first sight. It was true love. It was nothing like the feelings between him and me. I was more like an intruder in his and Lily's relationship. I was a flaw, a thorn in his side. Ava, whether you believe it or not, I just felt that. Since Lily's parents have passed away and she's an orphan, it's not easy for her, which is why I wanted to take care of her more. As explained to me, his eyes darted around. He didn't even dare to look me in the eye. How could I believe him? Yet I still said, all right, I believe you. Can you leave now? I'm tired after a long day and want to rest. Oh, and please leave my staff key. Marcus's face instantly stiffened. Clearly, he could tell I didn't believe him. After left, I wiped down the chair he had sat on. Dirty, truly dirty. I started packing. In the past 6 months working here, I hadn't accumulated many belongings. Just some clothes, bedding, and daily necessities. What truly needed to be settled were the wedding items Marcus and I had bought together. It seemed I needed to find a time to settle accounts with Marcus before I left. Just then, a knock sounded at the door. It was Marcus. He was holding a snack. He happily handed it to me. Here, Ava, open it and see. I took the snack and opened it. Inside were money and coupons. Marcus smiled and said, I decided this morning, after we get married, I'll let you manage all my money. You just give me my monthly living allowance. Looking at Marcus in front of me, I suddenly felt a sense of unfamiliarity. In my previous life, let alone him handing over his salary. After we registered our marriage, I never even saw a single coin from him. I had a massive hemorrhage during childbirth, and his parents didn't spend a single penny, even clamoring, just let her die, she's a waste of money alive. It was Henry and Susan, and Daniel and Sophia, who paid the doctors to save me, which is why I survived. Later, the money for William and Margaret's medication when they were sick, and for their funerals, all came from me. During the 20 years Marcus was disappeared, he secretly contacted Ethan. He must have also been in contact with William and Margaret. I don't know if he gave them any money. I only know that before Ma. Garrett died, she called Ethan into her room. When came out, although he tried his best to appear sad, I still saw a flicker of secret joy in his eyes. After the funeral, I couldn't find anything valuable in her room. Later, I fell ill with no money for treatment and could only endure it. That endurance lasted until I was fading away. Thinking back to my previous life, Marcus probably knew I needed money for my illness. And to think Ethan might have been hiding money his grandmother, Margaret, had given him, yet neither of them was willing to give me money for treatment. I felt a dull, suffocating pain in my heart. Marcus saw me suddenly tremble all over. He rushed forward, wanting to help me. I pushed him away. I leaned against the wall and took a while to recover. When I looked at Marcus again, only indifference remained in my eyes. Marcus's heart sank. I looked at the money in the tin box. Since had brought the money, I certainly had no reason to lose out. The scores from my previous life were beyond settling, but in this life, they would be settled. I took out half the cost of our wedding purchases from the box. Then I handed the remaining money and the box back to Marcus. Marcus saw my actions and was puzzled, but he didn't ask anything. Even the dullest person could sense the change in me. He didn't understand what had happened in those brief few minutes. He just felt that something seemed to be slipping out of control. After confirming I was all right, he left, looking back repeatedly. That night, I slept restlessly. In my dreams, I saw my previous life. William and Margaret had told Marcus about my massive hemorrhage during childbirth. Marcus had only replied with a faint hum over the phone. I also saw that when Ethan was still an infant, William and Margaret had secretly taken him to meet Marcus, without my knowledge. Marcus knew I was constantly looking for him, but he conspired with everyone to keep it from me. No wonder everyone who knew him refused to talk to me about it. I also dreamed of colleagues I had worked with for many years in my previous life. They praised Marcus and Lily's love. As for me, his wife, I was merely, in their words, a cosmic of destiny. Ha, how utterly laughable. I woke from the dream, my pillow wet with tears. But I was still alive, healthy and alive. I still had a chance in life, didn't I? For the next 2 days, I was busy with work handover, and Lily and Marcus had made plans for her to enjoy Marcus's cooking. And because the money from that night had silenced the matter, I thought that was the end of it. But that evening, Lily came looking for me. She invited me over for dinner. Her invitation was so insistent, I accepted. When dinner time arrived, I went to her door, carrying a gift. Through the fence, I saw Lily and Marcus locked in an embrace. Marcus's hand was kneading Lily's softest spot. When he saw me, his face went paler than ever. Lily also looked terrified. She was frantically trying to button her almost fully undone clothes. I didn't say a word, just turned and left. Lily had treated me to a lavish meal tonight, so I saw no need to give her my gift. Not long after I left, Marcus came running after me. He grabbed my arm, eager to explain himself. Ava, please let me explain. Lily and I aren't what you think we are. Not what I think. You mean not the sight of you two in a disheveled embrace? Or your hand where it absolutely shouldn't be? Even though I'd been busy with work handover these past 2 days, I'd heard plenty from Aunt. Aunt couldn't stand the woman. Especially someone like Lily, who not only knew she was the woman but brazenly paraded it in front of the legitimate partner. She constantly updated me on Marcus and Lily's disgusting behavior. She said, someone in the small saw Lily deliberately brush up against Marcus, and Marcus didn't move away. Someone saw Lily and Marcus sharing a bowl of food. Someone saw Lily and Marcus holding hands in a secluded spot. Now, Marcus stood before me, looking rather disheveled. I couldn't understand why he would do so much with Lily. Only to then rush to me and ask me not to misunderstand. Did he still imagine, like in our previous life, that I would stay home and take care of his parents for him? While he and Lily carried on their passionate affair outside? Before appeared, I was the only one allowed to be close to you. Barely an hour after Lily appeared, you carried her to the hospital. Less than 3 hours after meeting her, you allowed her to sit on your bicycle, hugging your waist. Barely 5 hours after meeting her, you abandoned me to take her to eat at the cafeteria. Barely 7 hours after meeting her, you allowed her to stay in our sleep in our marital bed, and use the bedding and sheets I had prepared for our wedding. Less than a day after meeting her, you were willing to spend half a month's salary to treat her to an extravagant. Also less than a day after meeting her, you were willing to personally cook her soup. You didn't shy away from her touch, you shared a meal with her, and you held her hand. And now, you're embracing and caressing her. Can you still stand here before me, swearing that there's nothing improper between you two? Do you really think I'll believe you? Perhaps my words were growing increasingly sharp, because Marcus's body began to tremble uncontrollably. He mumbled, his lips twitching, but couldn't utter a single word. Let me guess why you're so afraid of my misunderstanding, why you insist on explaining, even trying to bribe me to make me believe you. On the day we were supposed to get our marriage license, you fell in love with Lily at first sight. Lily also had feelings for you, so she faked an injury to prevent us from getting married. And back then, because you had developed feelings for Lily, you actually didn't want to proceed with our marriage. It's just that these past few days, you've perhaps realized something. You love Lily and want to spend romantic evenings with her. I looked into Marcus's eyes and said, word for word, but at the same time, you need a virtuous wife to help you take care of your parents. And if this virtuous wife could also support them until their dying day, even better, right? Am I wrong? At the end, Marcus suddenly looked up at me, his eyes wide with disbelief. Seeing his shocked expression, I actually felt a pang of sadness. Sadness for having wasted a lifetime on someone so utterly manipulative. Sadness that the little bit of post-wedding sweetness I thought we shared was nothing but a cruel joke. I couldn't deceive myself anymore. And likewise, I wouldn't allow Marcus to continue deceiving me. That evening, I returned to my staff and packed the luggage I needed for leaving. But appeared at that moment. She glared at me, her face full of malice. "So, Ava, you're back too, aren't you?" Seeing my calm expression, she scoffed lightly. When she looked at me again, her eyes were filled with scorn and mockery. "So what if, in your last life, you hogged Marcus's wife's position? You still ended up being a maid to his parents for your entire life. And the son you painstakingly raised? He called me mom behind your back, haha, isn't that hilarious? Your husband is mine, and your son is mine too. And in this life, even though you've been reborn, you can't change the fact that Marcus loves me. This time, Marcus's wife will be me, and only me." Although I was already utterly disillusioned with Ethan from my previous life, hearing that he called Lily mom behind my back still sent a sharp pang through my heart. But it was a relief, a true relief, that in this life, whether he approved or not, I would never bring him into this world. Lily, like a triumphant rooster, kept rambling on in front of me. But when she saw me looking at her, my eyes held pity, sympathy, and compassion, everything except anger. She fled in a panic. To me, she was just an pitiable person, much like myself. In this life, without me to bail them out, would she and Marcus still be able to live the happy life they had in the last one? At 10 past midnight, unable to sleep, I stepped out of my staff to look at the moon. I was startled by a dark figure sitting by the entrance. By the light filtering from inside, I recognized Marcus. He reeked of alcohol. I wondered how long he'd been sitting there. I realized that even after being reborn, I still couldn't understand him. I took my flashlight to go find Lily. Lily clearly froze for a moment when she heard me telling her to take Marcus home. But she didn't say a word, just followed me back to the staff. Marcus was asleep, and Lily struggled to pull him away. I didn't help. The man she loved, she could bail him out herself. The next day, as I was getting ready to leave with my luggage, Aunt came looking for me. She pulled me along, eager to watch the drama unfold. I followed her all the way to what was once Marcus's and my marital. There, I saw Marcus, his face contorted in a furious rage, staring at Lily who sat disheveled on the floor. It turned out that after Lily had taken Marcus back last night, thinking of how Marcus had chased after me, how distraught he looked when he returned, and how he'd slept drunk outside my staff door, even calling my name in his dreams, she couldn't stand it any longer. She took advantage of Marcus's drunkenness. Even though Marcus had mistaken her for me, she still slept with him. After getting a rough idea of what happened from the small residence, I felt nothing but disgust. I picked up my luggage, intending to turn and leave, but grabbed my arm. "Ava, please let me explain. Would this scumbag never give up?" I took a deep breath, looking at him with not a single ripple of emotion in my eyes. "Marcus, I thought I made myself perfectly clear to you yesterday." Marcus searched my eyes, hoping to find a lingering trace of affection for him, but he was disappointed. My eyes held only the indifference I'd reserve for a stranger. Because I didn't care, I wasn't angry. Because I wasn't angry, I felt nothing. He finally realized that I truly didn't care about him anymore. Marcus weakly released my hand. His voice was muffled, and from behind me, he quietly said, "I'm sorry." Sorry for what? This life, or the last? I left Far Community, and returned to the seeing and Susan healthy and happy again, I broke down in tears. Every day since my rebirth, though I appeared carefree, a massive weight had pressed upon my heart. It was my entire life. A life so heavy it choked me. How could I possibly let go so easily? Marcus and Lily deserved far worse. But I had Henry and Susan, and Daniel and Sophia. I couldn't let two rotten people ruin this new game of life I'd started. Only now, seeing Henry and Susan healthy and untouched by my past burdens, did I finally feel the lightness of having that mountain lifted from my shoulders. After spending a few days with Henry and Susan, living out the loving dynamic of parents and devoted children, I threw myself back into work. Without the burden of Ethan, William, and Margaret, my work progressed exceptionally well. Before long, I was promoted and received a pay raise. I was even appointed as a university professor, fulfilling my long-held dream of teaching. I heard news of Marcus again a year later. Lily eventually achieved her wish from her previous life. She married Marcus and became his legitimate wife. Soon after the wedding, Marcus brought her back to the William and Margaret were a handful. In my previous life, with my good family background and excellent job, they still didn't approve of me. They naturally looked down on Lily even more, since she didn't have a job. So, they used every trick in the book to torment Lily. The household was in constant turmoil. Marcus wanted to take Lily away. But Margaret disagreed, making a huge fuss. They believed that Lily, without a job, was marrying A. Both her station by marrying their son. And the thought of Lily ruining things between me and their son. Made them seethe with hatred. They absolutely refused to let Marcus take Lily away. They wanted to keep Lily by their side, to serve them like a slave. Childhood often couldn't stand against sudden romantic nights under the stars, also couldn't withstand the mundane of life. As time went on, Marcus looked at Lily and saw nothing special. Without love, Lily was no different from a common. Soon after, Marcus applied for a transfer, and this time, he didn't take Lily with him. Later, I heard Lily fought back. She and William and Margaret tormented each other, living miserable lives. Later still, I heard Marcus had an affair. In a fit of rage, Lily went to his workplace and reported Marcus. She accused Marcus of rape when he was drunk back in far community. That was something I hadn't expected. Indeed, anyone willing to be the other woman for a scumbag for an entire lifetime is no pushover. What surprised me was Marcus. In the last life, he resented me because of one regretful word from Lily. He was utterly heartbroken, looking at Lily's photograph. He was in pain and regret when he saw me leave. Yet in this life, I didn't see him showing much lasting affection for Lily. Ultimately, I had overestimated him. Someone rotten to the core, whose very nature is self-love, how could they genuinely repent? It was merely the frustration of loss and unfulfilled desires. Thankfully, in this life, I had escaped that cage. My future was bright and promising. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.